Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk about something that sits at the center of so many of the conversations I have with women every single week. It's this destabilizing, disorienting moment where you start to realize maybe this is not actually a communication issue. This might not be about better tools. It might not be about reading the right book. It might not be about finding the right therapist. It might not even be something that couples therapy can fix. It might be a power issue. And that realization can be really terrifying because if it's a communication issue, then you can work on it together, right? If it's a communication issue, you can contribute and almost drive the train towards fixing it. And there's hope in that. There is a shared responsibility in that. But if it's about a power dynamic, if it's about entitlement, if it's about someone believing their core underlying, even if it's subconscious, belief that they have the right to unleash on you, to express their rage on you, to have access to your body, all of that, that's a very different conversation. And we are so deeply conditioned as women to interpret male rage as something understandable, like he's stressed, he didn't mean it. He has a lot of childhood trauma. He doesn't know how to express himself, right? We're taught to contextualize it, which softens it, right? And we're taught to empathize with it, often to the detriment of our own emotional safety, right? So I want to ask you to ask yourself something very simple, which is, does his anger, we're going to talk mostly about anger right now, does this rage that comes out, does it create fear in you? Not necessarily fear that he's going to physically harm you, but fear, emotional fear. Do you fear saying the wrong thing? Do you fear talking about your successes for fear that he will disregard them or feel somehow, threatened by them? Do you fear disagreeing? Do you fear disrupting some mood, right? Oh God, I see this all the time where we're like, well, things are going well, so I don't want to bring anything up, right? But once fear is part of the equation, we're no longer talking about miscommunication. Now we are talking about power. When somebody has power, the power to make us feel frightened, that we're no longer talking about communication. And I'm going to say something that might feel, you know, a little sharp or direct, but it's important. If he can control his anger with his boss, he can control it with you. If he can regulate himself in front of other people, he can regulate himself with you, which means that it's not uncontrollable. It's targeted, right? If he can control it in other contexts, then he can control it with you. He just doesn't want to. That doesn't mean that if he can't control it in other contexts, that it's okay. But 9 times out of 10, they can, which means that it is targeted at you. And once you kind of wrap your head around that, you kind of can't unsee it. And that's where couples therapy will often sort of enter the picture, right? Because we've all been told that if a marriage is struggling, the answer is to sit in a room together and talk it out. And sometimes that is true. but not when one person feels unsafe expressing themselves, not when one person is shrinking to avoid escalation. If you feel like you can't express yourself unless you're in therapy with a third party present, um, you probably shouldn't be in couples therapy because couples therapy assumes relative equality. It assumes that both people are participating in good faith. It assumes that both are safe enough to be vulnerable. But when there is chronic anger, intimidation, volatility, that assumption collapses. And often couples therapists aren't skilled or attuned enough to that dynamic to recognize it fully. And sometimes it's because the angry partner may present really well, right? They articulate their triggers, they explain their stress, they cry, they might say they feel disrespected or misunderstood, and then suddenly the conversation shifts to you both, right? You both escalate. You both trigger each other. You both need to communicate better. And then you walk out feeling more confused than when you walked in. And confusion is not growth. That's actually gaslighting, unintentionally, right? But systemic gaslighting. If someone has an anger management issue, that is individual work, period. End of discussion. Anger management is not a two-way couples issue, it is a them issue. And if they don't want to take responsibility for that and go and seek their own therapy for that, it's not your fucking job to put yourself in harm's way to help them solve it, right? So the other thing that I see all the time, right, is that women feel like they don't feel this way, but essentially what they're saying is that their partner's trauma outranks the trauma that they caused you, right? We tend to have more compassion for their trauma and the reason that they're treating us the way that they are than we do for ourselves for being victimized by it. And of course, like context matters. Understanding why someone behaves the way that they do can be useful, but not at the expense of accountability. So if the therapy room starts centering his wounds more than the impacts of his behavior on you, that's not healing. That's actually reframing harm. Couples therapy should never become a place where you are asked to understand why he hurts you before he's required to stop hurting you. I'm going to say that again. Couples therapy should never, ever be a place where you are asked to understand why he hurts you before he is required to stop hurting you. So let's talk about what happens then when you step back, right? When you say, I'm not doing this. Couples therapy is not a place for me right now. When you separate, even temporarily, something will shift almost immediately, right? So we've talked about this in previous episodes. I talk about this ad nauseum, but I'm going to say it again, right? Suddenly, the anger is not there. Suddenly, he misses you. He's lonely. He's devastated. He didn't realize what he had. He promises to change. And it feels real, right? It might even be real. But as I said a couple of weeks ago in an episode, right? It's actually panic. When separation removes access to you, to your emotional labor, to your body, to the stability that you created, access to the identity of being married, then the whole system destabilizes, right? Separation removes access. And when access is removed, everything gets shaken up. And that's when panic sets in. And panic can look like love. It can look like tears and vulnerability and insight. Oh, I see it all now. But panic is not the same thing as accountability. Panic says, come back, I'll do anything. I miss you. Accountability says, I need help. I see what I did. I'm recommitted. I'm committed to changing it, whether you return or not. Accountability says, I get it. And I get if you have to leave because of it. And I'm really committed to making changes within myself and seeking my own help. Those are real different energies, right? One is about restoring comfort, and the other is about transforming character. And this is where time becomes critical. You can't discern this without long periods of time to see it critically. So, one of the most confusing experiences during all of this is the short-term change, right? 2 weeks in, and he's calmer, he's journaling, he's reflective, he's gone on a medicine journey, he's reading books, he's saying all the right things, and you think, oh my God, he's changed. But first of all, sustainable change is not visible in 2 weeks, right? It's visible in consistency over time. Secondly, if he could change that quickly, why hasn't he done so already? He just didn't think he had to. And that tells you a lot about how he views you. So, sustainable change happens over a long period of time through frustrations, through not getting immediate access to you, through not getting what they want, through not getting rewarded with reconciliation for minimal effort, right? Oh, I've changed. I read a book. I went to therapy one time, so come back now. And you say no, and they blow up again. So I would say 6 months is a baseline to observe patterns. Observe patterns, not 6 months of promises, 6 months of individual therapy for them, 6 months of no defensiveness, 6 months of respecting your boundaries, 6 months of not blaming you for the separation. And if someone can't tolerate that timeline, that is important data. Because real change doesn't rush you. Manipulation does. So if you're separated and trying to gain clarity, I really, really want to be clear also about one very important thing. Sex is off the fucking table, right? It's not neutral, especially not for women. It bonds us chemically. It releases oxytocin. It reignites hope. And it often, for women, right, puts us right back in that vulnerable position with somebody who doesn't feel safe to us. It reignites all the hope in the world. And hope without accountability is super dangerous. So if they want reconciliation, they can demonstrate growth without access to your body, without access to your time, without access to your labor. And when you hold those lines, pay attention to the response because you'll know, is it respect? Is it pressure? Is it patience? Or is it vile accusations? Because somebody who is truly doing the work understands that rebuilding trust takes time. Someone who is panicking wants reassurance. And your body, by the way, is not reassurance. Okay? Seriously. I've said this before and I will say it again right now. You never, ever have to have sex that you don't want to have, nor should you. You should never, ever, ever have sex that you don't want. Not out of obligation, not out of sort of pacifying, not because, like, well, if I just do it this time, he'll lay off for a couple of weeks. Ew, gross. No. So I want to talk about the underlying belief systems that accompany all of this because, anger or demand for sex, any of these things, it's not about emotional dysregulation, it is ideological, right? When you and your partner are fundamentally misaligned on issues of autonomy, equality, power, rights, that's not just a political disagreement, it's a values misalignment and rupture. So if someone usually underlying these these sort of feelings of entitlement to your body, to being a repository for their rage, right? Consciously or unconsciously, obviously. When they believe that they're entitled to dominance and control over you, their anger is fueled by a belief system, right? It's a belief system that they matter more than you do. A belief system that they should have dominance or control over you. And you can't couples therapy someone out of a worldview like that. They have to choose to look at it. They have to choose to change it. And they have to choose to understand it, to like look at it, really like interrogate it. And most people won't, right? They just won't because, as far as they can tell, outwardly, it's working for them. Why would they interrogate something that is, quote, working for them, even though clearly it's destroying their marriage, right? Um, Another thing I want to sort of point to is that, when you're investigating all of this, when you're looking at this, when you're sort of trying to pull all these pieces apart, one of the things that keeps so many women frozen longer than anything else is the finances, right? I mean, always comes down to money. And financial entanglement can create psychological captivity, right? Whether you're the breadwinner or you have or not, right? Because if you are the breadwinner, you're like, fuck, I'm gonna have to like, pay support and all the things, right? And that sucks um, to someone who's been an asshole to you. And if you have not been the breadwinner, if they've been the breadwinner, there's a lot of fear and terror um, about financial insecurity. So, right, if you co-own a business, it becomes just this, it's like you're having to disentangle so much. Um, and so what I want you to do is to gather information, right? Because when you don't know what you don't know, it feels catastrophic, right? Um, you feel like, well, better the devil I know, right? This sucks, but at least I know where the security lines are. Um, so very often just getting information gives you a sense of power. Now, it might be, oh shit, it really is that bad, right? In which case, okay, well, we'll have to deal with that. Sometimes it's okay, it's actually not that bad. It's not, I may not be able to continue the lifestyle that I am accustomed to, but at least I'm not going to be destitute, right? Because that's the fear. The fear is like, I'm going to be destitute. Um, and so I do encourage you all to just gather information, get the facts so that your inner critic and your fear isn't running the show. And look, information is not commitment, right? Consulting an attorney is not filing for divorce. Gathering documents is not betrayal. Learning your state's laws is not disloyalty, right? It's regulation, it's emotional regulation, it's clarifying. Because the stories your mind tells you at 2 a.m. are usually way more catastrophic than the numbers on paper, right? Will your lifestyle change? Probably. Is that the same thing as annihilation, financial annihilation? No, right? Clarity about these things reduces fear. So if you are separated right now, you're not deciding forever, what you're doing right now is you're gathering information. You are observing. You are gathering data, right? How does he respond when you say no? How does he respond when you tell him that you don't want to continue with couples therapy and you need him to be in individual therapy? How does he respond when you take sex off the table? How does he respond when you ask for transparency and disclosure? Escalation is data. Blame is data. Respect is data. Consistency is data. You don't need to argue your way into clarity. You just need to watch. Because behavior under pressure reveals character more than words ever will. So, I kind of want to end on this note. If you're separated right now and your nervous system feels calmer, that's data. If you're sleeping better, if you're not bracing for the next mood shift, if your thoughts feel clearer, that is not trivial information. Your body often knows the truth before your mind is ready to accept it. So here's what I want to say, my love. Not only do you deserve to be happy, but you deserve safety. You deserve accountability. You deserve a partner who manages their own emotions and takes responsibility for themselves. And you deserve time. Time to gather financial information, time to observe patterns, time to decide from steadiness instead of fear. So remember, anger is not a communication issue, it's a responsibility issue. And until responsibility is taken consistently and independently, nothing, and I mean nothing, changes. So if you are in that in-between space right now, you do not have to navigate it alone, right? Studies have been done about especially betrayal, right? One of the most healing aspects of recovering from betrayal is being in a support group, right? So I want to invite you to think about joining Phoenix Rising if you are looking for support and you are looking for a container and you're looking for people who are going to make you feel like they fucking get it, that you're not alone, you're not crazy. I want you to come and join us in Phoenix Rising. Or I want you to join me for private coaching, whatever, like wherever you're at. I want you to have the perspective that I have sitting in this chair when I hear stories, hundreds of women, every single week, day, over the years, thousands and thousands of women. I have a certain perspective because I heard all the stories. You're alone right now. And if you feel like listening to my podcast, you feel seen and you feel gotten, that is just the tip of the iceberg. Because when you're in a group of women, like in Phoenix Rising, holy crap, that is just exponential. So again, whatever you decide, if you are in this separation period, I want it to be based on sustained behavior, not short-term panic. And I want you to feel supported and completely seen throughout the entire process. So I love you. I am here for you. I have created an entire world of resources for you, and I really want you to take advantage of as much of that as you feel you need, as much as you can, because I don't want you doing this alone. I will see you next week. And until then, take good care.